Fine.
I can.
Awesome. Cool. Welcome, everybody, to our webcast tonight, the 7 stages of the lifetime patient. I made a mistype and put a 5 down there. Being brought to you by the Pediatric Summit that's going to be at Life University September 25th and 26th this year. We have Dr. Robert Brooks, who has been in practice for over 42 years. Practices in Oklahoma currently. He started taking care of people over 20 years ago, and is a tremendous. My loading was off. Has so much knowledge in so many different aspects of chiropractic. How are you doing tonight, Dr. Brooks?
You know, I'm feeling really good, Caleb. Thank you for asking. Thank you for inviting me to participate.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm really interested in our topic tonight, the 7 stages of the lifetime patient. What made you come up with this, and tell us a little about it?
Caleb, I've gone through several practice transformations, and I started off as a segmental or full spine chiropractor, and was a DE teacher there way back there in the 70s, probably before you were born. And then I started reading the green books and switched to an upper cervical approach. And when I switched to an upper cervical approach, the results became so profound that I didn't really have to tell people about what I was doing. I just said it was magic. And I got away with it for a number of years. And after about 5 years of doing that, I said, well, you know, I've got to figure out a way to tell people what it is that I do. And so and for me, learning is different than education. Like, you're going to school and you're getting educated, right? How much you learn is completely different.
Absolutely.
So, years ago, and this is in the early 1980s, I kind of got the idea it's patient learning, because if their behavior doesn't change and the decisions they make don't change, they didn't learn anything. So what I started doing in 1984 actually was I started asking every patient on every patient encounter, are there any questions? And for the next 5 years, what I learned is the exact same questions arise in everyone's mind about how to take care of their spine, how it relates to them, and what they have to do to deal with it. And so from that, I've actually established a number of different contexts or pictures based on the answers to those questions. So one of the contexts, I'm going to give you this one before we go to tonight's topic, is sometime during the course of life there's an injury that actually tears loose ligaments and tendons that hold the spinal bones together. It leaves behind a weakness, and the spine actually breaks down and locks into a stress position. When it's like that, lying down, a leg is longer and one's shorter. Standing up, a hip is higher and one's lower. The body frame has a twist or distortion. Muscles are imbalanced. Movement is abnormal. It's progressively wearing and tearing and beginning to lock down joints in the spine to protect them. Now, the real issue here is the nerves from the brain to the body have to go through there, of course, and that's where we as chiropractors kind of come in. And so knowing that the brain has to make everything in the body work, when the spine's misaligned, it limits then the body's ability to function effectively and have normal nerve conduction, normal information to make everything coordinate and regulate in the body. So with that being kind of a background, now I can introduce people to the idea that there's 3 nerves into the arm, there's 3 nerves from the neck into the head, there's 3 nerves down the legs, there's nerves into the body cavity that regulate all the organs, glands, and tissues. So from that picture now, it all makes sense, because I don't have to talk about a bone being in or out of place. I can talk about a spine being misaligned, and when I show a new patient a full spine x-ray, A to P and lateral, I can show them not only the misalignment or distortion, but also the amount of degeneration. Now from that, what we need to know, the next question is, what do I need to do to take care of it? So we can switch over now to the what do I need to do to take care of it, because you need kind of that background to be able for me to introduce this next conversation, and that's the one on the 7 stages. Absolutely. Okay, stage 1 is virtually everybody that comes to the chiropractor comes on faith. They either believe you're going to help them, or somebody's drug them in there and they believe you're not going to help them and they're going to prove this person wrong. I mean, it's either faith or doubt, but it's the same thing. And so everybody comes to the chiropractor looking for help or believing they can be helped So faith is stage 1. Now, by the time we process a patient in a practice and they've actually been engaged long enough, they're starting to get some relief. Now, stage 2 is just relief. It's I'm feeling better. I don't hurt as bad as I did, or something's working better than it was working before, or this condition that I've been suffering from seems to be improving. And so relief is stage 2. However, spinal misalignments that are progressive and degenerative, they take about a month to recover for every year the spine's been misaligned. And even though we can get some immediate relief and immediate results with it's keeping the spine corrected over time that actually gets people over it. And so if you're talking about a lifetime patient, you not only need to get that miracle in the beginning, you need to be able to sustain a quality of life that's going to keep them under care. So stage 1 is faith, 2 is relief, 3 is recovery. And to be able to guide a person through the recovery process, you come up with a whole different set of information. And that information is going to look like this. You know, what's recovery going to look like? Nerves always recover from the brain going out. So if pain's moving down and out, it's recovery. If it's coming back toward the brain, the spine's misaligned and needs to be corrected again. Pain moves from a larger area to a smaller one. And over time does this until it disappears as the body heals. Okay? So these are just very simple, very fundamental things. And then you have the healing rates of different tissues. Ligaments and tendons have a first phase at 6 to 8 months and a final phase at 18 months. So if you're truly correcting spines, the first 6 or 8 months they're going to be unstable. And so you have to deal with that stability. And so misalignments can be small and simple, big and simple, small with a complication, big with a complication, or very complex. So knowing what kind of spinal misalignment you're dealing with helps you manage the people you're taking care of. So we're still in faith, relief, recovery. Stage 4 is very interesting because as people begin to improve and get their life back, what they start doing is looking for other things to do to take care of themselves. Because instead of having to do all these other things to manage all their symptoms and problems, they don't have to do that anymore. And so somebody will say, okay, Dr. Caleb, you know, I've been feeling so much better. What kind of exercise should I do? You know, are there certain nutrients I should take? So stage 4 is an awareness of the requirements for wellness. So faith, relief, recovery, aware of the requirements for wellness. Mm-hmm. Now the next stage is where somebody's sailing along, their spine's been stable for a while, life is good, and all of a sudden the spine goes out of line again and life is not so good. Guess what happens? That's the very first time the person becomes aware that there's a power in life inside the human body that's limited by the misalignment of the spine. So they get stage 5, principle of aliveness, and stage 6, principle of interference. Now at that point, a person will begin making different decisions in their life. And those decisions are anything that interferes with my ability to be fully expressed disappears. So those are the 7 stages of development of lifetime patients. A stage 7 patient comes in and you say, what kind of trouble are you having? My spine's misaligned. How long has it been misaligned? Since last Saturday at 3:10 p.m. I mean, that's the way it works because you have that person that has learned how to integrate spinal misalignment with faith, relief, recovery, awareness of the requirements for wellness, principle of aliveness, principle of interference, and then a decision-making process to just anything that interferes with my life is gone. Okay? Now, I had to give you that background to answer those 7 stages. I'm going to go back to you and let you ask questions.
Okay. Basically, what we're here today is as each of these patients go through each of these stages, like stage 1, how would you relate to each of these patients at these different stages differently? Like what different questions do they answer stage 1 versus stage 4? Or like how would you relate to them to help them feel the most comfortable, let's say, in that crisis care on stage 5?
Well, they're not going to be in stage 5 and be in crisis care.
Well, not crisis, but like when you were saying that they're going along for a while and then that shift when they realize that
life is limited.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The best way to begin to relate to these stages is from the questions patients ask. For example, if somebody says to you, Dr. Caleb, you know, my back is still hurting really bad. Is there some exercise you'd recommend? What stage would you think that is? You see, that's a stage 2 question. If I'm feeling so much better, I think I should be exercising. What do you recommend? That's a stage 4 question. So knowing these stages, you're going to be able to relate to the person in the stage they're in. Now, Caleb, you know, I don't know why I figured this out however many years ago, 30 years ago, but I'm going to tell you that at that time I thought, oh God, I'm so brilliant, I can move everybody into stage 7, and you know what? It isn't so. I can only wait for the person to move themselves. And I've had people that I took care of for 20 years or more that never moved beyond relief. They only related to what I did in relief. And then I've had some people that will go to stage 7 in like the first week of care. And so I don't have a real answer to that. But somebody that comes to you to have the interference removed from their life, which is what we would love as chiropractors, it doesn't happen very often. You're going to have to guide the people through, and when you give language for the person's experience, it validates the experience, and that's what sets the stage for them to move to the next stage. So if somebody's in a relief stage, use encouragement and permission. You know, we just got started. I know there's more to come. You may not be feeling as good as you're going to feel yet. We've had some improvement. The recovery occurs over time. They follow the drift now?
Oh, yeah.
So what you do is you have information that is going to be in every one of those 7 stages. Like exercise. I brought up exercise 2 or 3 times. Watch this. There are 4 different neuromuscular activities known as exercise. There's strength training. There's cardio, right? There's also flexibility. And then there's fine motor movement. And all 4 of those are different neuromuscular activities. Which one do you think would be best for you? And what I've just done is I've honored your own innate ability to make the right decision for yourself without telling you what to do. Follow that?
Yeah, it's very empowering.
Yeah. And so what we want to be able to do is we want to make people aware of their own inner wisdom and to be able to live from it. So by the time they make it to stage 7, they've got it in hand. And so I can't start a faith or relief person with the concept of infinite wisdom inside that's going to heal them. I mean, that's a fairy tale to somebody that's in really bad need of relief. So does that help you answer your question about how do you relate to people in the different stages? I think that was the question.
Absolutely.
And relate to the person only in the stage they're in. To create language for that stage. Okay? The majority of chiropractic is practiced in faith and relief. Okay? All of us as chiropractors love the miracle case, right? What that person that's got, you know, that hadn't been able to walk in 20 years comes in, gets one adjustment, they're out of the wheelchair, right? We love that case. That's going to happen. But then what do you do for that person for the next 20 years? See, I've got the luxury of having been in practice for 42 years. And I'm going to tell you that if you want to sustain that relationship with people, you've got to take them through the stages. Take them through the steps.
Absolutely. What questions, you said you compiled a list of questions over the years that allowed you to identify how they're in each stage. Would you elaborate on like some of those questions that we might be able to determine for ourselves?
Well, if you ask a person what's going on today or how are you doing, and they start giving you all kinds of answers about symptom this and symptom that, what stage would you think they're in?
Probably either the first or second.
Yeah, relief, right? And if somebody comes in and says, you know, I'm just doing so much better, I don't know if I should come and see you again.
Would that be 4?
Yeah. Okay, so you're starting to get the hang of it. So it's not that we have all of those questions listed. It's just that knowing the stages, then when you hear a patient question, you will know what stage they're in. And so I've had 57 chiropractic interns and associates in my practice through the years. And I'm going to tell you that I have to have them memorize the 7 stages. And once they memorize them, then they begin to see which stage people are in. But you'll figure that out on your own in 15 to 20 years of practice. Or you can memorize them and be ready for them when they come.
Absolutely. It's a tremendous help, like especially for a student like me who doesn't have 42 years of experience talking to people and relating to them about care. Someone could come in and you said in the first week they could already have put themselves into stage 7, and if I'm still trying to talk to them like they're in stage 2.
Yeah, you were insulting their intelligence. And that's what we do as chiropractors. And I'll tell you a quick story. Again, I've been around in chiropractic a long time. I'm kind of a part of chiropractic history now at this stage in my life. But I was in Spartanburg, South Carolina when Sherman College was still in the brownstone building downtown, and I went there specifically to interview Lyle Sherman because there were 3 chiropractors that were actually the chiropractors taking care of patients in BJ's research clinic. One was Lyle Sherman, the other one was Bill Blair, and the third one was Tom Elliott. Tom Elliott's the founding director of NUCCO. Bill Blair is the Blair procedure, and then Lyle Sherman, of course, was the knee-chest guy. All 3 of them had a little bit take on the upper cervical model. But I was sitting there in the brownstone, and there was a bench under the stairs on the first floor, and I saw Lyle Sherman sitting on the bench, and I went over and sat down beside him, and I said, Lyle, what do you think has been the problem with people not really getting the chiropractic message and integrating it into their lives so people just take care of their spines? And he said, it was real clear. He said, we fail to respect the intelligence of the average man. But what we haven't had is we haven't had the way to communicate in where that person can hear us and where that person is coming from. So again, those 7 stages then become very powerful in how we communicate to people. Okay, so in my practice, for example, we identify 5 categories of misalignment. There again is that small and simple. There's big and simple. There's small with a complication, big with a complication, or very complicated or complex. Of those, we have 5 outcomes. Corrects to normal initially and stays forever. Corrects to normal initially and wobbles around and has to be corrected several times before it will stay for weeks, months, or years. Category 3 will actually reduce and misalign and reduce and misalign until it eventually corrects and stabilizes for weeks, months, or years. Category 4 will reduce and misalign and reduce and misalign and never correct. And Category 5 will not reduce or correct. And when you do pre and post x-rays on every new patient for 40 years, you begin to see those patterns. And so by identifying the kind of misalignment the person has and what we expect the outcome to be of those 5 outcomes, now we have the ability to manage through information systems. And you know, evidence-based chiropractic was big terminology for a while. Well, just look at those 5 categories of misalignments and 5 outcomes, and there's no way you can say to me that's not evidence-based, because we have pre and post x-rays to validate all of it. You follow me there? Yeah. So again, that's going to be way back down there in stage 1 or 2. That's the faith or the relief, so that if you have the information available to that person on what it is, how it's affecting them, and what they need to do to take care of it, that creates a lifetime patient. And then you monitor the stages. I'm going to give you those questions again. What is it? How's it affecting me? And what do I need to do to take care of it? Now, as you mentioned earlier, I've had a seminar company where I take a very small number of people, no more than 25, and I've been doing it for over 20 years. It's called Taking Care of People, and what I have is I have 8 contexts, of which lifetime patient stages is context number 7. And so out of those, I can actually give you the information that will cause the person to make the decision to continue spinal care for as long as they live. So that's again, that's a different picture. That's patient learning, not patient education. Because it doesn't matter what we say to them if nothing changes over on the other side. You know, and we can keep people pumped up for a while, you know, and we can give them relief that will keep them under care for a while. But if you want them to live fully in a health and wellness state the rest of their life, that's a little different picture.
Yeah, this is very enlightening for me. I realize that people grow throughout their practice, but really having a tangible, almost reference, but like it really, really helps me, other students, and many doctors out there.
There's a 100-page manual that comes with my Taking Care of People class, and it's basically the communication, relationship skills, opening an office. And in that weekend program that we have, we do experiential stuff where I have you go one-on-one with someone and go through a particular exercise, or I have you in a small group and languaging some things that will work in your office. And we do economics of practice, we do staffing, there's all kinds of material in there, but the last part of it is practice of your dreams. And what I'm encouraging is people to be who they are and practice in the way that really suits them, but also be aware of what's happening to the person over on the other side. You know, you don't have to change who you are to be able to effectively communicate and enroll someone in lifetime spinal care. You just have to know what stages they're going to go through and what they're going to experience as they go through those stages.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you have anything else you would like to touch on, we can definitely talk about that. Otherwise, I'm so glad that we had you. I've learned a ton. I hope we can keep maybe having you on a couple more times, maybe talk about different topics. This has been a great session, webcast.
Good, thank you. Thank you. It's been my pleasure. And, you know, I've had over 1,000 students and doctors go through Taking Care of People now, and so it's really refreshing for me every time, you know, I hear from someone that says, you know, every day I use your material, and yeah, and I'm not I'm not a big company. I'm not interested in all the chiropractors, you know, but certainly a few people that really want to excel and be the very best at patient care and taking care of people. So I'm going to give you then a carrot for the next time we talk. Because I've been at chiropractic for a very long time, I do another class called Issues in the Tissues. And this is about certain life events that have been traumatic and what they do to create patterns of behavior and imprinting. And so issues in the tissues, feelings buried alive never die. They become issues in the tissues, and the seeds of those reactions and responses that can become pain, suffering, disease, and death. And so issues in the tissues is an overview of actually how we hold things inside and limit our lives. And so a stage 7 person, it's appropriate to have those conversations with a stage 7 person. Not appropriate for a stage 1 or 2 for sure, but on a stage 7 person, very appropriate. So that's another class that I teach, and that might be something else you would like for your listeners and your viewing audience to be part of.
Okay, that sounds very interesting. I'll definitely take you up on that.
It is not chiropractic, but it's a part of the interference to the full expression of life.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
Okay.
And I guess we'll see you soon. I'm going to be posting this to our YouTube page for any viewers that want to watch it again, and I can share it and I can send it to you. Yep. And hopefully see you soon.
All right. So just I'm going to leave you with 3 principles. It's one of my favorite things to do. Integrity is being true to myself regardless of what's going on in the world around me. Dignity is recognizing your infinite wisdom as well as my own. And grace is living out of that infinite wisdom every moment of every day. So with integrity, dignity, and grace, thank you again for the opportunity to speak to your audience.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. All right. Have a good night.